All right, so it's the start of our third week. Focus group 6, technically. So as usual, Mondays are just going to be our review days. There are tons of great homework submissions over the weekend that I think Boxer and I have gone through. Still giving feedback on some of them, but the overall quality looks really high. I know that in general, I think we noticed two things mainly. One, and I think this is probably partially just because of how we taught things. There is a lot of dependence on the base 3 tables, right? I think a lot of queries are basically only using the Ethereum transactions, Ethereum traces, and Ethereum logs tables. And I noticed that in the Google form I sent out yesterday night, basically asking like what are people struggling with the most from either the SQL or Ethereum side. A few people said that it's hard to kind of figure out which contracts and function or event tables to use. So sometimes it's easier to just try and do it from the base logs or traces or transactions tables. And technically that's fine. There's nothing wrong with doing that, but those 3 base tables are the biggest tables in the database. So as you kind of do more complex queries, if you're always relying on those tables, then your queries are going to run for a very long time. So you're basically going to have a lot of timeout queries, which I think some people are already running into. So I do want to take questions, but before I do, let me just go over kind of a table guide that we're still honing a bit, but just to kind of make things a little clearer, and I'll put this in the chat as well. Let me close that. Okay. Yeah, so this is essentially a mapping guide. We've already seen this in the first lecture, right, where you have a transaction that goes through and it gives you essentially 3 tables, the transactions, traces, and logs tables. I'm going to move this over here. And essentially these 3 are just the base tables that everything else is created from, right? We already know that if you're on Ethereum mainnet, then it's just Ethereum.transactions. If you're on a different chain like BSC, it becomes BSC.transactions or Polygon.transactions. And really, when you submit a contract through Dune decoding, all it's looking for is saying, okay, we're going to take those functions and events from the contract you submitted and decode those into new tables that stores data from transactions or stores data from logs, right? And essentially, what this means is it's storing it in its own table, right? And this kind of gets into like when tables are filled. So Dune obviously has like event and like block processors that listen for certain events or function calls, and when they get decoded into, or when they get filled into Ethereum.transactions, then they also get filled into this separate table, right? So this separate table, for example, of like Uniswap adding liquidity, this table is much smaller than this table, right? So if you were to query for this function, you would want to use this. And we've already been doing this for some of the questions that JD set up last week, and I saw everyone using, which was minting, right? So if I add liquidity, it gives the pair event mint as the logs output, right? So obviously querying on this pair mint table is much faster than querying for the topic on Ethereum logs. And just going over the naming convention, because I think it's a little confusing at the start. It's just going to be the protocol name, and this should actually say Uniswap v2. But it'll be like Uniswap v2, and then it's the contract name, right? The contract name is router02. And this is a call table, right? So it's the function signature decoded from transactions. So it's saying, all right, this is the call of the function add liquidity, right? And the same thing for events on the right side here. It's, again, the protocol name, so Uniswap v2, the contract name, which is pair. Remember, pair is the base, is like the actual contract that holds the like DPI ETH pair tokens, right? Router is just this abstracted kind of like secondary contract. So it's actually the pair contract that emits the event of minting the LP tokens, right? So that's how you get your contract tables from your base tables. And then the next level down is abstractions. This is the GitHub that we were showing last week a few times, specifically for DEX trades. We were showing that a few times. I'll just go back there again, right? Where the point is, we have these base tables, we have these contract tables. We can run a bunch of scripts together on a scheduler, which just means like once a day or something, or once an hour. And it's going to take all those scripts to fill in this aggregated table, which is much more complex, right? So DEX trades, which for anyone who wasn't at the lecture, it's just basically it's a table that allows you to see all trades of certain token addresses across Uniswap, Balancer, SushiSwap, like 1inch, Matcha, 0x, all of those in one table, right? So the way they get all of that into one table is they have a bunch of scripts that you can find at this GitHub repo, which I'll put in the chat again. So all of these scripts are run just to fill this one table, right? And that's how you get DEX trades. And then you even have some stuff like abstractions that feed into abstractions, right? So price is USD technically. When they update the prices per minute, after this table's finished updating, it pushes in and backfills on DEX trades, right? So this level is probably the most complex / confusing. But I think once you think about it in terms of like, oh, it's just scripts that's organizing the base tables and contract tables, it gets a little easier to mentally manage. So definitely like get comfortable with like go to abstractions Ethereum and then just like go to file and you can search up like I don't know, prices. And like you can see like, oh, these are kind of for prices, like some of the scripts that are within it, right? Or if I go to DEX, I can kind of see like all of the different queries that make up the DEX table, right? And it's definitely helpful to like look through some of these as well, right? Like if I go to Polygon Sushi, I should be able to see like, oh, okay, this is the rows I'm inserting into, right? So this is DEX trades, not rows. These are the columns being inserted into. And I'm actually selecting from, let's see. Yeah, so you're selecting from Sushi, pair, event, swap. All right, so this is a contract table, and there's a bunch of these that then fill in the Sushi portion of the data of DEX trades. And the last part of tables is user-generated views. And this is something that Rantum is going to go into tomorrow, but essentially it's like a CTE that's kind of like a table. But one of the big differences here is like these three tables up here, the base table, contract table, and abstractions, they're filled like a few times a day, or more than a few times a day, but like they're filled completely, right? So if I'm querying an abstraction, it's not then running all of these queries to fill the table, right? Because that takes a long time. The whole point of having these abstractions and contract tables is so that the query runs faster. But if you're using a user-generated view, it kind of just acts like a CTE. So you're not actually saving any query time because it's pulling that data upon query. That'll make more sense tomorrow, but I'm putting this here now just so when we do kind of show it tomorrow, it makes sense and people aren't confused of like, oh, why is it still so slow to query? Does anyone have questions on this? On like how we get certain tables or like where to find something?
Hi, are the user-generated views code reviewed or are they kind of a little Wild West?
They're completely Wild West. So anyone can create. So the abstractions have to go through a pull request into the Dune repo. Those are supposed to be the much more expensive queries, but anyone, like I have quite a few views for like, for Mir, for example, like this is all one view, and you'll see it's no results from query here. But yeah, you just have to do the create or replace view. You have to make sure that you're creating it on the Dune user generated. base schema. Otherwise it won't work. Like I don't think I can't just do this. It'll give me like a authorization error. That's like the one caveat.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hey, Andrew. Maybe you can go through an example of how you would find event logs or like the relevant tables inside of Dune. I think that's something that people especially struggle with.
Yeah.
So just, I don't know, depositing into AAVE or something, and like, how would you actually find that table?
Yes. Yeah. That is the next. You are ahead of me.
Oh, okay.
That's the next thing I want to go into. No, of course, no. I'm gonna do it for DPI minting because I think Chushin had a question about this over the weekend, and it was actually a very good example. But yeah, I guess if there are no other questions right now, I'm just gonna go through an example. So let's start with DPI. All right, so let's say I have this token. I don't know anything about the contract. All I know is that the token sits in this contract. The naive way, or most basic way, right, is we've done this before. Hold on, I'm actually going to go to someone's existing. Actually, hold on. Just bear with me. Where we want topic 1 equals, so we don't want this to be the transfer event, right? We want the contract address that's emitting this log to be the DPI token. And the topic is, I'm just gonna look for a transfer call here. So this just is transfer. So I know I can go to logs and pull topic 0. If I go too fast, someone stop me. But yeah, we've seen this before. It's just a transfer event. So I'm gonna pull that back in here, change this to bytes, right? Let's just do like limit 10. So this is gonna give me all transfers, right? But then I still need to do, let's say I'm just curious about minting. So I want to say the minting is from the 0 address, right? So in this case, these are all my mints, right? And I could just do, okay, this is my mints out, and then like copy and paste it and change this to topic 3, and this would be like my burns mints, right? I could do this and subtract. This is what we did basically in the first week. But I think I mentioned this before, Ethereum logs is a giant database table, right? So we would want to find the function in which the DPI token is being minted in. All right, so I'm gonna pull a transaction hash from here. I'm just gonna take the first one and hope I get lucky. Great. All right, so I can see there's a bunch of stuff happening here. The first thing I'm gonna look at is what was the contract that I was interacted to, right? So essentially my assumption is if this token is being minted, that means it wasn't bought off an exchange. There must be some contract that's minting the token, right? And my base assumption would usually be might be the token contract itself, which was the contract at this address, right? That'd be my base assumption. But I can see here that this address is 0xD8EF, right? Which doesn't match with 0x149F. So I'm actually going to pull up this contract and just quickly just take a look at it and be like, okay, there's a bunch of initialize, redeem, issue. So these might be some functions I want to look into, like what is initialize, what is redeem, and what is issue. All right. But before I do that, sometimes it's worth doing this, sometimes it's not, but I'll just look through the tokens transferred to see if I can figure out what's going on, right? It looks like there's a bunch of different ERC20 tokens being moved around. And then at the very end, there's this DPI token that's being minted from the black hole, right? And it's going to this set rebalancer thing. First thing to check in a situation like this is, are these like users or contracts, right? And in this case, oops, should take me to the set rebalancer. Okay, it's a little slow. I think Etherscan is rate limiting me. Okay, never mind. Let me just here. Okay, I can actually see it here. So in this case, this is sometimes confusing, but like contracts have names, but also like addresses will have names. So this is technically from set rebalancer, and we know that you can only be a from if you're a signer. So this is a user-owned address. So my guess here is that this is the DPI, whoever's the admin of DPI over at IndexCube or Set Protocol is calling a rebalance to issue this new token. All right. So that means I can ignore everything happening up here because I know that that's basically just, it's something to do with this index being rebalanced. And probably doesn't affect the minting in a huge way, right? So one thing I can think about is, okay, I have two options. I can either look for, like, again, the redeem, initialize, or issue functions in this contract, or I can try to figure out from logs, like, what is the event being logged. All right, so in this case, I'm going to try the logs method first. So I know that this minting is happening last. All right, so I would expect this to be one of the final logs being outputted. If this black hole to set rebalancer for one DPI token was happening up here, I would expect it to be within the first like 3 or 4 logs or something. So I can ignore everything up here. I don't have to worry about it. I just go to the bottom. And this time I'm lucky. It says set token issued. So I can just copy this and search it over here. And in this case, this is the only event of its type, essentially. At least it's the only event from like Set Protocol, right? But you're seeing here that there's 2 contract names, right? One is a basic issuance module, one is a debt issuance module. So just to double check, I'm going to go here and I see set token was issued from this address, right? That's the contract that logged the event. So I can open that up and I'll actually see, oh, this is this basic issuance module, right? So that means that the function I should be calling, or the table I should be calling, is set token issued on basic issuance module. No idea what debt issuance module is. Maybe that's something fun for me to query later. So I'll run this query, and I can see there's a set token, which I recognize this is the DPI token. There's an issuer who is the person who called, right? So this D3D55 should match the rebalancer we saw. Yeah, so that's the person who called to issue this token. There's a 2 who's the receiver. Again, this is kind of like AAVE or a bunch of other DeFi contracts where like someone can initialize and send the tokens, but it doesn't have to go to the person who initialized the transaction. I can go and mint DPI on behalf of Boxer, for example. Hook contract, no idea what that is here. I'm going to guess it doesn't matter. And then quantity, this should be the quantity of this set token. So I would have to either check this contract address for the DPI token to see the decimals, or I could use one of the tables already within Dune to check the decimals. I think I normally just use prices, but in some cases that's not prices. I think Boxer, is it on? Can I check decimals on ERC20?
ERC20.tokens, yeah. That is usually the way to go because prices is limited in scope.
That's true. I find myself, normally I'm joining prices at the same time that I need decimals, so I normally hope and pray that it's on there. But yes, for most purposes, is a contract address? I'm guessing.
Yes.
Oh, I did double quotes, and you have to do single quotes. Right, so I can see it's DPI, and there's 18 decimals. Right. Cool, so just finishing this part off. Yeah, so there's no other like data points I need from here. Basically just quantity and set token is all I really need. So I might just do like a sum of quantity divided by, in this case I know it's 2018, but I should technically be doing a join. And yeah, so this is the total amount of DPI that was minted. All right, so 7.09 million DPI. So now what if I want burned, right? So I could go through that whole process again where I started up here and changed, like, instead of from the 0 address, it goes to the 0 address, and then take a transaction hash and try to figure out, like, oh, what was the final log that was indexed? Because that probably represents the burn. But I already know that this is your issuance module. So I would actually check the issuance, the same contract first, right? I know this is the contract that is issuing things. That means it's probably the one that's burning things. So if I look here, remember earlier we looked through the transactions and we saw redeem, we saw issue, we saw initialize. So my guess is it's probably redeem, right? Because if I look at, let's say I look at one of these issues. When I'm issuing something, I'm transferring a bunch of tokens in. So my guess is I can redeem for those underlying tokens if I would like. Does that make sense why I'm saying that? Possibly.
It does for me. But, I'm deeply familiar, so.
That's fair. So, okay, so my assumption of how DPI works in this case is when I'm issuing a token, all of these underlying tokens are being bought, essentially. So that if I ever want to redeem, like if I want to burn DPI, then I would get all of these tokens back, essentially, is how I would expect this to work. So because of that, that means that when I'm buying this token, all of these tokens have to sit somewhere, right? So it wouldn't really make sense to like have a different minting contract from a burning contract, because then like it's separation of concerns. Like you just want, like you want to have these tokens in the same place. Anyways, I'm going too deep there, but point being is I would expect that the redeem function is what I'm looking for here. So if I look at redeem, there's a set token redeemed emitted here, right? In some cases, you might not, for some reason, see an event here. Like maybe it's a function that just doesn't have an event with it, right? In which case, there's a few options. The easiest would just be like, okay, maybe I'm looking at the wrong function. Let me go to the contract tab and just search redeem. I can't type redeem here, and I'm just gonna. So I hit enter once, and I can. This time I'm lucky. I can see here that there's 2 events on this contract. But if I want to look for the function, I just press enter again, and Index Coop or Set Protocol has nicely documented their code, so I can read this and see redeems set tokens positions and sends the components of given quantity to the caller. So the components in this case are the tokens that make up that DPI token. So you put in some set token, some quantity, and the address probably that you want to send the final tokens to, yada yada. Like some of the solidity you don't have to know how to read, but like I also know that this is the burn function, or the function that gets called for burning, because I can see that burn is being called within here. My guess is that this whole portion is all of the inside components being transferred out. So all of those not mini tokens, component tokens within DPI being transferred back out to the user. And at the very end, once everything's done, you see at the function end, it says emit, set token redeemed, address of the token, message sender is just the person who redeemed the token, the twos who received it, and the quantity was the quantity that was inputted at the start to be redeemed. All right. Normally, you don't have to go this deep into the contract, but sometimes like the behavior is not what you expect. And if you know the function name or the event name, then just search it up. Again, this is top level. Go to contracts, search it up here. You can just like keep pressing enter and it'll keep going. And yeah, so then now I'm like, all right, I know I'm looking for set token redeemed and I'm going to search it up here and great. It's right here. So I could probably just do the same exact query. And instead of set token issued, it's just redeemed. Cool. And this is the sum, right? And then if I wanted to put it together, maybe I just select from both and issue burned. I hope I can do this. We're showing a new syntax here. Does this take an obscenely long time? That does not look right.
I think, Andrew, this is the old format of joining the tables. You should not do it like this.
Okay.
Just try to-
Sounds good.
I agree.
I was trying to be cute. Okay.
Can just do a union with
Yeah, I was just
one being negative.
I feel like I saw someone do that, somewhere else. So I was like, I can.
Yeah, I've done it before as well, but like I don't understand the rules. It's really weird. Like it works, but it only kind of works.
As far as I know, that's the old way of writing joins. Actually, you can join two tables without using the word join. Then you can use where condition in the on clause. So you should not do it like that. I think it is like this. I'll just quickly check and let you know if that is true.
Okay. Sounds good. I definitely saw some people in Dune doing that.
They are like really old people. So before 2005, the people who used to write SQL queries before 2005, they used to write like that.
Wow.
Okay.
That's ancient.
I've never seen that before.
I swear I saw it and I was like, this is on some Stack Overflow question. They must be really smart. I'm just gonna use it.
No.
You
already made the burned negative, I think, and then you.
I did. Did I? Am I naming something wrong? Oh, do I?
You need to sum it. You need to sum the because you're
right.
getting two rows.
You're
you
right.
need to sum it.
I'm just hold on. My brain. I unioned. Hold on. It's a Monday. Give me some slack.
No, just let the no, that's correct.
Okay. Great. So now we have total supply. Or total supply. Great. All right. All right. So just to summarize, I'm gonna put the comments up here.
Do you dare checking it against Etherscan?
No. We're pretending this is definitely correct. Method 1 here is from an address, pick the mint transactions. look for transaction and try and figure out the event function. I forgot to mention this, but
there actually is quite a mistake in this. You're not filtering for the correct set token in the basic issuance model thing.
Oh.
So
Smart
the result, like I actually checked with these again and it's like, nope.
Thank you.
Yeah.
What was that called? That was called the set token. I can check here.
Yes.
And see set token. Goals. Thank you, sir.
Yeah, should work like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that number looks good.
Nice. Thank you. Figure out the event or function being called.
It's still not at 100%, but
close enough.
I think there was some weird things with DPI in the past of like I don't know, some protocols siphoned off their liquidity, vampire attacked them and stuff like that. It's actually not that easy. You could just use ERC20 event transfers, and that way you would have all of them. Yeah, it might not all have gone through the official burn address. I think that's going to be the issue, if there is any. Yeah, there was some vampire attack from some protocol, and they probably burned a bunch of tokens without. Oh, actually, they must have redeemed them. It doesn't really make sense. Yeah, I can't figure it out. Whatever. Yeah, then you would burn like the underlying stuff. So it's like really useless to do that. You're basically burning the keys to those tokens. So it's like even if there was a vampire attack, they would have done it through the official way. I don't know. It's weird.
Andrew, Andrew, do we have a sample dashboard for any token that is present both on Polygon and Ethereum, so we can go through that code and look ourselves? That will be really helpful.
How's life?
It feels like you have to have a lot of context to really figure out what's going on.
Yep.
A lot of looking at bytecode.
Maybe Andrew, can I just throw you a few curveballs and you'll figure out like how can I find this event log? I think that because like I think that's by far the hardest process, and we've only done one now, so it's like he's getting ready. So, for example, like I think Rabbit Hole has this one quest where it's like deposit tokens on AAVE on Polygon. Like how would you? No, like go through Etherscan, or basically like without trying to look at any other like dashboard that is on Dune, or maybe not Rabbit Hole stuff, but like try finding like a AAVE dashboard or something and just go from there. Yeah, not the one from Doc. Like that's too easy. Because it's like usually people like if you were to work in space, like you don't like nobody contracts you to like do stuff that's already been done on Dune. So it's like how would you like reasonably get there? Like, hey, like if some protocol approaches you and they're like, hey, like here's my contracts, like I want to know this, and this. Like how would you go about that? Yeah, that's like super technical. That's not needed.
Yeah, I was like, don't put on a contract as my last resort.
Yeah, that's my last resort as well. Okay, I see. Yeah, I guess like usually you would have at least like you would have the contract addresses. So what you could do is like check ethereum.contracts. Like I think like I don't know if you've shown this before, like the ethereum.contracts table. Ah, yeah. Actually, yeah, right. I've seen that. Yeah, but I think like what we've seen from the questions and stuff is like that's probably the hardest part. Like, hey, which query, like which table should I actually query? And then I think the event names, especially like the locked names, are like really self-explanatory. Like we just saw this with like set issuer and set redeemer. Like once you actually like find the right contract to query and like the right I don't know events, then it's like like you're already like 3/4 of the way there, and the rest is like a bit of SQL, a bit of like I don't know, like joining prices, stuff like that. But it's like finding those tables. That's like really a key part. I actually always do that because I think seeing the rows of the table actually really helps you to like grasp what's happening inside of those contracts. Yeah, no, that was helpful. Have you shown bloxy.info yet? The visualization of one single transaction. Bloxy.info? You don't even know? Oh man, you're gonna love this. Yeah, like
yeah, I don't know either.
Yeah. You've not, Michael. You are not aware as well.
No, I need.
Oh man,
yeah, I need. We just need like a list
guys,
of. Just make a list of all the cool stuff, so we
you guys
just
gonna
keep it all
love this.
together.
Just take a event transaction hash. Yeah. No. I think it's just Ethereum currently. Or maybe they have other sites for Binance and Polygon and whatever. Yeah, go to full screen and then
so this is easy for you.
It actually really helped. Like, I don't know why all of these tokens are being called in this particular event, but it really helps to have this visualization sometimes. Like, if you're analyzing yield aggregators or something like that, where it's like it's a whole fucking chain of events, there it can really help to like take these apart. Yeah, you can enable and enable things like on the top left. Maybe you want to do that for a second, because then it will get. Yeah. Yeah, it's this is a very weird. Yeah, this balances contract. It keeps track of all the different interest-bearing tokens, basically. Wow. Yeah, it's all the like you can basically see like how like interactive DeFi is and like how many things are involved in like single transactions. It is really helpful. I guess ethtransaction.info, ethtx.info, I think, or .com. I'm not. Yeah, that one is a very good transaction explorer as well. Yeah, I just noticed that like you guys are like I don't think I dig as deep as you. I usually just I don't know. I just take like single events. I'm like, hey, this is the deposit event. Like this probably makes sense. And then like if the data doesn't match at some point, then I'm like, hey, like what is actually happening in this smart contract? But in most cases, it actually works. If you're just like, hey, there's like the deposit event, there's a withdrawal event. This should work. And then like if there's some weird internal accounting, then I'll start like digging through the smart contracts and stuff. But like usually you can get by with like pretty minimal knowledge of what actually happens in a smart contract. Mm-hmm. Yep. Yeah. Yeah, I see. Yeah, this is pretty advanced. Like it's not that advanced because it's just showing you the information in a different way than what Etherscan does. But this, especially for internal transactions and for figuring out calls, this is a really powerful tool. Yep. Yeah. Yeah, and I'll probably do like tomorrow there's a lesson, right? And then on Wednesday I can show people my buckshot method of just like we'll just like we'll just figure it out in a quick way. Because I think that would really help some people, because it's like if I hear like people are like sleuthing through like bytecodes and stuff like that, like it shouldn't be like that. I can, like, at least the way I do this is probably more effective. Maybe it's wrong. Like, it's not wrong. It's like you'll take a while until you figure out what the problems are. But we'll see.